my testicle went off again, and I started getting anxious about the same time I did yesterday. And I thought it was the weed, and it's like, oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's like, oh. And I went to bed, I had a good sleep, I had a good crap, so I think, and I've got the moose today. I'm starting to head home because I know, even though it's probably just around 10 o'clock, that it's going to take me a couple hours or so to get there. And I want to get home early, so my mom doesn't have to worry. But that's what I'm a punctual type of person. I enjoy walking. It's good that I've been able to have this walk today. And my mom has got an appointment, so I think the fact that my sister is coming to town, I've noticed in life, though it's hard to prove it, that when my sister is in certain kinds of contact with my mother, I tend to have panic attacks when I'm in the forest. Unfortunately, this is a place of honesty, and something I need to confront is that in my family, in a way that my sister wields a lot of agency, the way that my family or my sister thinks about me is castrating, and it's sexually predatory, and she's learned this. And who my sister is in the world, and I've studied this, and she's even answered some of my clinical questions over the years without me having to ask them. So sociopaths will answer clinical questions about their behavior and how they think. And my sister's identity and my brother's identity and that of people around them is based upon being able to scapegoat me and treat me the way a rapist would treat a rape victim. Okay? That's stalking. Okay, let's take a break here. It's just I noticed a lull when I came into this little basin, so I'm going to use that lull for a moment. It's a nice little ethereal well, so I can feel safer. Take a piss, catch my breath. Okay. You use everything when you're out here, especially if you're emotional. Anxiety is something I can't control. It's not bad. It's like 3 out of 10. And I think while talking about it, it kind of acknowledges it. Acknowledge the demon, it's kind of called. Acknowledging the demon in the moment or outside the moment or in real time. Whatever your mind can tell you that means, okay? So yes, there's the Christian mythology of the demon. But I'm not sure how to say this. I think, generally speaking, it's probably for the best just to use it as a tool, and once it works, then it works. You slay the demon by saying the name of the demon and making the demon out to what you need to make the demon out to be, which doesn't make you wrong at all. But like acknowledging demons is the same as acknowledging things you probably wouldn't normally want to believe, that things and the way people behave and talk about you could affect your physical body, even though they're supposed to love you. And if you just had that concept and say, okay, the demon is something that I can name about a constellation of thoughts and behavior of various types of people around me, that brings disintegrating energy upon me for any number of reasons. But the fact is that it does. And we're emphasizing that part of it because if you don't acknowledge it up until that point, then you're not doing the most basic thing you can do to limit its range of effect upon you. And the fact that you can notice it's affecting you, combined with the fact that it is affecting you physically, means you can protect yourself from it. Right? If someone can strike someone, you can protect yourself from being struck. You can protect yourself if someone can strike you. You can protect yourself from being struck again. Maybe they get one off, bang, and you're like, whoa. And you take a few steps back, or you run, or you get into a fighting posture, or you say something, or you call the police. You're taking another step to prevent yourself from being struck again, because you might get struck dead the second time. Everyone might need to be struck once, but you don't want to be struck twice. So, my testicles don't go off very often. It's been a few years, but I often think it's to do with females in my family, and my mom and my sister are getting together today. But I also met someone in contact with a powerfully, I believe, murderous former child care minder living in the area over the river. And I think even day 2 after this person is a very sick human being. I really prefer to know people who are honest in every way and forthright. I was completely honest with this person, but they're not an honest person at all. they're a total liar. And so you never want to deal with those people at all. You don't want anything to do with someone. Once you know any level that they're a liar, that's hard. Now, if you have to, if you find you can limit, because all humans lie. You catch someone a lie doesn't mean it's the end of the world or all that kind of thing. You've decided as the judge of your life, I love this person or this, that. But if it's just some stranger and you know they're a liar, why would you want anything to do with them? If they insist on insinuating themselves into your life, despite your peaceful and lawful statement that you're not interested in such, that's stalking, right? Stalking, and that's sexual assault, right? You've made it clear enough. They don't have to continue doing it, but they do, because they don't accept that they've done anything wrong to you, and therefore it isn't wrong at all, and you're just limiting their freedom. That's what you expect in cults, right? You wouldn't necessarily expect that from people who've taken care of children their whole lives, or would you? And so I don't have the luxury anymore of doing anything but wondering about such people. In a sense, they do all teachers a disgrace. And what is a disgrace? A dishonor, and a reason for honorable people to question the validity of your profession, or your people, or your honesty, or your health, or your sanity. To question whether or not any of you should be paid anything to do what you do every day, no matter how hard you work and everything else. Right? Maybe you should lose your job so that you could find your spirit. I think if someone out there's listening to this and they're going for a teaching degree, or they are a teacher, you could think about taking a couple years off. Just getting a cabin somewhere, and getting some good books, staying connected to whatever subject you're passionate about, but getting yourself away from children and schools and institutions and back into just an everyday. If you've got a good mind, you can do that, and you can enjoy it. Read some Thoreau, read some Emerson, go for a walk every day, visit the deer and the raven, find books written by naturalists or written by native people, or anything that just gets you in touch, and stay in touch or keep in touch and restore, wherever you can, your love relationships with family, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers and sisters, or see which ones are close to you, and keep that as a, share with those whom you truly care about the poignant nature of your retreat, and hopefully they'll respect you. Maybe they'll want to come and visit you or stay with you, and just continue on good relations. You're not taking yourself away from what is good. You're giving yourself a chance, like an elimination diet, to take out what could even conceivably be a little bit or a lot bad for you, based on things that nobody can control. It's called like an occupational hazard. And an occupational hazard of people who work around children, to me, and have come up through the school system, is that they have a high sense of the deceptive about them. I came on the beach yesterday, and there was two people in some kind of uniform, one female, one male, walking around like they were pretty big stuff around some high school students, who definitely acknowledged they were pretty big stuff. And they were all very friendly. And it was a perfect example of what I'm talking about, is that they were all kind of liars. They all gave off the energy of living in some magical world. And what time is it? 10:30? Okay. Let's get going. I'm going to turn this off maybe for a bit. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes. They were posturing. I looked over them, and the female and the male, they were enjoying posturing around people who were contiguous with learning how to posture. They're walking around in the uniforms, and the woman and her body language, the shape of her body, everything looked like her body fit into that uniform, into that costume, and into the type of posturing. So you would say they were very comfortable, for sure. They weren't uncomfortable. You would think that if they were doing something wrong, they would look uncomfortable. The thing is about portrayal and learning to posture from a young age is that you can be comfortable being part of things that someone else might not be comfortable being a part of at all. So as I walk by these children, these people, I'm not comfortable with their energy at all. But they're all normal white people, right? And the two people they're with, for some reason, I didn't stick around to notice because I'm not a stalker. But you could have sat down on the bench and just tried to figure out, or even asked them, hey, what's going on? But I knew I didn't want to know. I knew that my energy might not seem very good to them because I really already kind of smelled something stinky, and I would use that information against them, essentially, whatever it was. They were not going to relieve me of my thoughts that whatever this is, it kind of stank. They were all well fed. They all sounded healthy and happy, a little bit loud. They were all into their lives. They didn't seem to direct any unnecessary attention at me, even in large groups, so that's healthy. They weren't, anxious to prey on someone who looked different. But I don't think I'm the same as any of these people. And in just the sound of the voice, I had an opportunity as I walked by. What I got, what evidence, was a brief exchange between the female officer of whatever capacity and the male officer, and to get their age and sex, and to listen to the sound of her and his voice, and to watch them posturing like a dance. They were coordinating. They were actually herding these young people. They were coordinating a kind of conversation, interaction that said that we are in power, we are in control, and you are good people, and you are like us, and so that makes us all safe, and we're in control, and you're safe, and you're also powerful people because you're behaving correctly, and we're all behaving the way that we should, and we're all portraying the right kind of energy right now. And he's saying like, oh, they're just doing this, and he's given the right energy, and they're just playfully maybe challenging him on some level, and it's all just a very good-natured thing, even though their power and the lines of authority are clearly firmly in place. The jest that it's involved is, a respect to his power, a respect to their power, and the power of their relationship complying with a certain type of culturally approved lying and portrayal and posturing. It's all programmed economically, religiously, through their schooling and through their development, their acculturation, socialization, sexualization, and capitalization. So that the work they do and the sex they have and the families they have and the way they speak in the course of their lives are basically all decided. You can predict it, right? It doesn't matter what YouTube stations they follow, who's on their phone, what color their phone is, what kind of car they drive, right? What kind of anime or porn they're into, what type of music they're into, what type of clothes they buy, where they live, where they sleep, or anything they believe from heavens to the earth. You can predict that all these people are going to have a very similar fate in the world. They're going to be part of things. They're going to pay their taxes. Essentially, as far as you know, having all the kinds of lives that maybe a human should have. But it's very predictable. And it's posturing. And maybe everything is posturing. And maybe their posturing is the posturing that humans have found seems to be a good range of posturing and lying because it gets things done. And let's face it, survival's tough. If humans didn't lie, how could they survive? You got to tell yourself a lie every day, we're going to get through the day and we'll live, and nature and everything else is on my side because I'm a good person. And yet, good person or not, bad things happen to you. Why? So you have to kind of lie to yourself. I could be having the greatest day of my life and a tree could fall on me. Why here? Why now? I have patterns in the day where yesterday I ran through people I would say that I categorize this way for my own private reasons through long experience as sexual predators. I walked around a city block and I found 3 or 4 of them, either with whom I'd had some kind of contact. That gave me a very good understanding of what to expect from them and the kind of people they were. Having witnessed or felt them behave in various ways, which I take to be out and out violent to me or other people. So you understand that I happened to go get weed there. I just walked around the block waiting for the store to open, and I can find 3, 4, 5 instances of sexually predatory places and people around me, and then go on my way. And why I can see 2 police cars just going on their way down the highway as I left and say, well, that's at least 2 predators for the day. Well, I can see a woman and her little dog looking at me a certain way and say, that's another predator for the day. And yesterday, but before I came home, another female predator put themselves into my world a little bit, right? And I'm still responding to the communication, not wholly bad one, from the other male and female predator from yesterday or the day before, I think it was. Maybe yesterday, and my balls started hurting yesterday after seeing the one predatory male. And my sister's coming today. And they're a similar profession, the profession of teaching. And I believe that these people are basically thinking of me as a child because their skills in life are all based on dealing with children. And when someone doesn't behave the way they want them to, they treat them like a child. and he's just attempting to wear me down, or that's all he can do, and he just keeps doing it for whatever reason, because by using my name every time he sees me, he's hoping to wear me down to the point that, I'll seem like I'm not concerned about him and his wife and how they're behaving, how they have behaved, and how they're still behaving. So, I'm becoming used to it, and it'll keep going on for years, and he'll keep saying my name, but it doesn't mean anything. It's lost all meaning. It's lost all decency. It's just what he has to do to compensate for something he cannot be in the world anymore, which is a decent, rational person. Okay, let's go. And, and I study that, and I study people like him, and they put themselves into my life. I'm going to study you, because that's my compensation for having to be around you. I will try to avoid them. I really do. And I think, as the days and weeks go along, whatever goes on, I really have to be concerned about my sister's visit today. I asked my mom, is Lindsay going to come by the house? She said, and she said, oh, no, she's staying at a place. And it's like, well, what I'm really asking is, I know she's not staying here, but are you going to see the house? And I said, well, oh no, I don't think so. Well, I understand it's up to you, but I'm letting you know that I would prefer not, just because, we're not friendly and she's coming into my space. And I don't really think my mom can really say no if my sister insists upon it, because my sister basically controls her through different forms of posturing. So my sister's coming and my mom is relating to me. The emotional orientation of my sister as she comes is one of nervousness and anxiety. She just wants to get her nails done with her and maybe go. She's very nervous about seeing her, as though my mom is going to make her feel really bad. But my sister makes my mom and me feel really bad all the time. My sister is a violent person, okay? And violent people can also feel like their victims are going to make them feel really bad. If my sister ever gained a conscience and thought about maybe trying not to make us feel really bad, and listening to our words or our body language, or just listening to anyone around her, and think about how she treats them and how she treats her family, and think about how we deserve to be treated as people, if nothing else, who have a voice in their own dignity and safety, who, if we're capable of using it and you were capable of listening to it, we would say no to a lot of your behavior. Our bodies say no. They say that something's wrong with the way you're behaving that makes Landon sick, that has brought enormous life-altering violence to members of your own family. And yet you remain, as perhaps you may need to remain, insensible of the impact of your choices in life. And even something that probably for you goes right into your very sense of your own identity. And so that scares them. You may be scared. You may be anxious about dealing with your mom or your brother, but understand that they have very good reason to be scared of you. There has been a gulf introduced, a gap, that has provided you the probably totally unsatisfactory power, license, or desire, or all three, to hurt your mom and your brother with impunity, and to show nothing but continued disdain, anger, or anxiety, as the need seems to provide, about them having any voice in their own safety. And you have learned to do this, and you have to learn to stop doing it. And that is probably not going to feel very good to you. And it's probably going to make you angry and sad and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, the kind of person you'll become is someone who's capable of finally considering your mother as a person, and your brother as a person, and yourself as a person. Regardless of your profession or what you've learned in life, we are, at the end of the day, people. We brush our teeth, we get up. We don't like people hurting us, yelling us, insinuating bad things about us, or in other ways, treating either or one or both of us, or me, like we don't even exist. Like there's nothing important about us, but they're like a problem to be solved. Or someone who's just mentally ill, because you don't understand why they make a lot of sounds and a lot of body language to the effect that you scare me. You scare me. You've negatively affected my life and my home and my ability to use my own body. Right? You have done that. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying that because it hurts. And when things hurt and people don't understand, you feel like the best thing to do is to keep repeating yourself. And the more you have to repeat yourself, the scarier it is. Because that person constantly seems to be telling you, your words don't matter to me, they're nothing to me. You sound like a crazy person. And they're still hurting you. Your words mean nothing to me. Why do you keep using them? They're useless. Your words carry no weight in my world, or in anyone's world. You should think, there's something not right with you, when in fact, I'm a total psycho, so there. And when you hear your family member saying that, or an alcoholic, or a psycho, or anyone, or a police officer, or any number of white people in service of their protection and their safety and their way of life, what are you to think? What are you to learn from that? And so I started today talking about the nature of learning, and learning in a school and learning outside of a school, and how what you learn outside of the school is pretty extensive, and it can contradict with what you learn inside the school. Because in that capacity, the school has served as a cult. Whether humans need cults, or you could define cult broadly enough that everything could be a cult. I generally constrain my working definition of a cult as something where we can connect what people are trying to do at their best and for the best, which can be seen by its violent effects upon other people, to make violence of this and many other kinds inevitable, that people in the cult do not see or hear or speak the language of, because the predator never speaks the language of its prey. So here we can see as a cult that humans do their best in the world, but become as close as a unified order of a very unified and peaceful mind in oneness about basically being able to get away with violating people in numerous ways before anything becomes a crime that anyone with any power thinks is criminal. And so what do you think is going to happen in the world? So yes, by your education, if this were true, it would seem like we're really just talking very cynically about something that, because of the nature of life or reality or genetics, and things we just have to work on because we don't have better ways of doing those things, the reality of life. And if you want to obsess over it, you can, but there's very little to be gained by every advance that you make in understanding the world. This is the least profitable pursuit, to understand how the world really works, and that it gets to arbitrate, by your own estimation, for what should or should not be considered real by me, and thereby to testify quite quickly to being capable of every violence in the world. One little constituent human belief system at a time. Denial, intoxication, certain chemical and endorphin profiles, different sequences of shocking barbarism to the human mind. That's all part of life and genetics and evolutionary psychology and industry and things that we don't really enumerate except in movies, television, and the Bible. And even then, it has nothing to do with us except to titillate us and give us the catharsis, and only the catharsis we need, that leaves us gasping for more, because there's simply nothing else. And no matter what this tells us, we don't have the words to make sense of it. Right? It's, in other words, it takes the fucking breath right out of you and kills you for 1,000 years. You haven't had a voice for 1,000 years. You're like a fucking mummy in the tomb. The words I'm making. I wrote a poem when I was 19 years old, submitted to a literary professor in my college, and he said basically I should be publishing already. And is that history is man's first words, like a baby who's been silenced for 1,000 years. History is a screaming child saying, please listen to me. Right? Why is my mind already operating at this level? Why? Why me? Why me? And the raven pipes up. Why me? Why am I so smart? Maybe a little bit smarmy, but I've got a good heart. Let my mind weave in ways you don't believe, in ways that make you seethe, as I attempt to weave many words that sound the same, even like your brain sounds the same, sounds the same, sounds the same. It's like an American folk song. We believe that thinking's really good. Go to schools, the places where you learning what you should. Even if Ebola takes control of us. If it's called the government of America, let's give it many cups of our own blood, of our own blood. What is blood that we can give it to the government in the form of money? There's a question for your doctoral applicants out there. What is blood that we can give it to certain things for certain incredible reasons in the form of money, which comes in the form of our blood and our blood labor and the labor even of our birth and that of the day and of the night and of the dawn of time itself and all the watches and measures of the very nature and the power in the motion and in the light and the heat of everything that we could call the sun, of all knowledge, beauty, and humanity forever and for 1,000,000 years. Okay, let's hear your doctoral thesis on that, because I could give one at a drop of the hat, 20,000 words long. Right? I could do it right now if you want to. I can do it anytime, because as a druid, that's what you have to do. That's my level of schooling. Right? If you pointed a gun at me, I would have to do that. And I could do it. I could do it to save my family from an invading horde of Attila the Hun and 1,000,000 fucking soldiers. I do that every fucking day. I do that before I get up in the morning. Before I get up in the morning, I was writing poetry in my fucking head. You know? Because it's the sound of my blood. Your dreams are the poetry of your blood. And just like your dreams need to have nightmares, so does your poetry have to have nightmares. So do your sounds out of your mouth have to be nightmarish. Because it's how the brain talks. There you go. Get a fucking doctorate. I've already got 1,000,000 of them. They're useless. That and a Bible I could use as toilet paper. If you put the right bounds on it, you can be a doctor of anything in modern educational terms. I could be a doctor of my own penis. Have you ever read people's doctoral theses? You know how many jokes on TV there are about people with PhDs who couldn't write themselves out of a comic book? You know? Come on. Have you ever read people's... I have. Of people, even professors who teach teachers in Canada. I mean, these people are morons. You know, you pay enough money and you put in enough hours, you can basically pay for a PhD and write something that wouldn't be worthy of an 8-year-old. Except unless he was on crack. Okay, I'm gonna do something I don't normally do and keep my camera in my hand as I cross the river. I've done this enough times, I know how to be careful about it. Got my backpack. Let's see. Let's just do this. So this is like worst case conditions for doing this, but I'm gonna do what I do so well, which is take care of myself in the worst case scenario. That's what I do with my life. I shouldn't be talking about it while I do it. It's like bad karma, eh? It's like, and now everyone, you jump from this cliff like the billy goat. Notice how my balls seem to float as though suspended in air, like Neo when he's dodging all those bullets in the Matrix. And keeping up this conversation is draining critical blood flow from critical areas of my brain so that I might suddenly trip on something like myself and fall into the drink. Okay, we made it. I wouldn't normally do that. It's a little unsafe, but there you go. Now we can sit here. I've never actually done a video from this phone. I don't even know if this is going to fall into the river or what's going to happen to my camera. What's going to happen to my doobity-doobity-doo. What's going... I don't like that. So let's be careful. I'm going to put down my drink. Hold it. That's... Oh! See, it almost fell. It's like you're dealing with nature, right? And you're like, you can't just put shit down. You can't just sit anywhere, stand anywhere, walk in any attitude. It's not like... And yet there's all these sidewalks and roads and freeways and people drive and they say they go to think. But it's like it's almost too easy to walk down a sidewalk and drive down a road. With all the complexities that it requires of your brain, it's not the same as what it requires for me to cross this river and not fall into the drain. Right? So why can't I just speak well for a moment about what I'm doing with my day? Clearly, I think, intoning the dangers. Basically, if you walk across logs of a river every day, you can fall into the river and you can die. You can become severely injured. Things can suck badly that change your life. If I drop this camera, I'm not able to make videos anymore. I don't like that. I got to ask my mom for some money to buy a new camera. That's not possible. So I can't afford to drop it. Now, the next part of my journey requires an extraordinary level of coordination. You just don't do it, but I've practiced it walking off of this tree stump and over here. I know I'm not doing any balancing acts, but I am doing stepping very carefully and testing every step of the way so that you can't afford to just like dum 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 and not think about it, right? Because you're going to make mistakes. You learn that from 15,000 miles of walking. No matter how many times you go over a log or walk through a place in the forest, you can one day just trip and lose your balance. Your one foot can catch on something in extraordinarily unfortunate ways, and you can go down. And so you start to think to yourself that if I'm above a river or a lake or on a mountainside, I can go down from there too. Because where you can go up, you can come down. Where you are raised above the earth, you can fall down onto places which you had no real interest in going and not falling in that manner whatsoever. It's not all just you're climbing with your friends and bungee jumping, like choosing to fall, which I think goes against human nature to choose to jump off of a bridge attached to a bungee cord. I think that just completely goes against human nature. And the one person I knew who was doing that at a young age ended up joining the PPCLI, which is known in Canada as one of the most violent units of the Canadian Army that ever existed, so much that they had to close it down. Now, I don't totally believe that. I just think stories are always made up in the Army. You can make up stories, and maybe that just sounds cool. I think that units in the Army are quite as innocuous or not as they seem to be, because you're never going to know unless you're in them. Is that fair? Because, I mean, that's the thing about the military. Like, they kind of like to keep things fairly to themselves. It's not like the military channel where you see, like, day 2 of basic training at Fort Bragg, All right, guys, you've got your jock straps displayed. I'm going to use this cane here to whack your jolly jammer and make sure that you can take a little bit of bruising in that area so we can just get you really quick the sodomy course and get you out there onto the Camp David and running around in circles with real ammunition, because now you're going to be a real man. Once we've penetrated the heart of darkness enough times, you are going to become a super soldier. Because like the basic thing about becoming a super soldier is getting raped and doing things as a soldier where you black out and get blacked out by things, like fighting to the point of blackout or blacking out before you fight and entering into psychotic states. Right? Same thing with police. Like police go into